Bhaktivedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj ki jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupara Shitarashita Shmad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupara Shitarashita Shmad Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj ki jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupara Shitarashita Shmad Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Shila Goraksharas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhattadash Raghunath Shara Gosai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. नाम अक्षर शिला हरिदास ठाकुर की जय. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जय. सर्व अभिष्ट विरत गिरिराज महाराज की जय. श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय. श्री मुन देवी गंगा देवी की जय. श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय. श्री भक्ति देवी की जय. श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाय की जय. श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय. श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. Dandavat pranams Gargaraji and Madhavi Didi, Ganga Didi. And Ganga Didi, tomorrow you can get to join. You can get up at 4 o'clock instead of 3:30 in the morning. It's amazing that you've been able to join these classes so early. Okay, so let's move over to this. The full embodiment of a Vaishnava's 26 qualities. This is the very last part of this book that we've been reading from for now more than a couple weeks now, I think, right? Of the infinite qualities of a Vaishnava, 26 are given special mention by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, thus pointing us in the direction of the full extent of the Vaishnava's glory. All of these qualities were observed to be naturally present in Sri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj to the fullest degree. These qualities are fully supermundane, aprakrit. Sri Krishna himself is the source of them. It is never possible for them to exist or arise on a mundane platform. Sri Krishna only infuses those whom he has accepted as his own with these qualities. Sarva Mahagunagan Vaiṣṇava Sharire Krishna Bhakte Krishna Guna Sakali Sanchare. All exalted virtues dwell in the body of the Vaishnava. All of Krishna's qualities are infused in his devotees. So the first quality is Kripalu, merciful. Oops. Dandavat pranam Rupanjali Didi. So the first quality, Kripalu, merciful. Just as Bhagavan is Dina Bandhu, the friend of the fallen, the Vaishnava is Para Dukkha Dukhi, aggrieved by the sorrows of others. The cause of all the living entities' sorrows is forgetfulness of Bhagavan. Forgetfulness, in this case, refers to the living entity's indifference to its own natural, unconditional propensity to serve Bhagavan. Because the living entity has forgotten the propensity, that is his only true bliss, his eternal bliss, Parananda, extreme sorrow, Paradukkha, has taken place. One second. The soul's disconnection from the supersoul is the ultimate sorrow and has become the three types of material miseries. The Vaiṣṇava is aggrieved by that paradukkha, not mundane sorrows and scarcities. For decades, for almost 12 months a year, Srimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj busied himself going from home to home in the villages of Bengal, Bihar, and Assam, preaching the message of Sri Chaitanya, striving to turn everyone towards the worship of Krishna. In those days, especially in rural areas, there was very little infrastructure and people were very poor. Regardless, every year, enduring all manner of hardship, he would travel out to the remotest village regions, places where other preachers were hesitant to go. His was a heartfelt manner of preaching, full of love and kindness. To this day, the people in those villages recall his visits with tears in their eyes. This is something he did year after year. Most of the villages were accessible only by foot, on paths often knee-deep with mud. He would have to walk miles and miles on these muddy paths in the torrential rain. Often, in the absence of boats, he had to cross rivers carrying his clothes in a bundle above his head. Every year, the people of these villages would eagerly await his scheduled arrival, and every year, he would bring many of them to Navadip and make all arrangements from there, nurturing them like a father, taking them on pilgrimage to Sri Gaurahari's holy abode. Actually, the one part I would miss on Bengal Prachar often was when I'd go to Sundarban, because I'd have to leave the country in the middle of Bengal Prachar, and because I had to leave every 6 months. And so, yeah, I'd have to leave in the middle of that part, and that was usually when they'd go to Sundarban, and that is where you'd have to, there'd be paths knee deep with mud. That was like the more watery area. And yeah, but I did have to, many villages, there was no roads going into the village, and you actually had to walk with all your stuff on top of your head. There's no, yeah. Yeah. 2. Akrita droha, non-malicious. Mahabhagavat Vaishnavas are ever anxious for the living entities to attain ultimate auspiciousness. Hence, they never engage in any sort of malicious activity towards any living creature. Srimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj was the embodiment of a non-malicious disposition. He was the embodiment of a non-malicious disposition. What to speak of malice? He was always making sure that he did not cause anyone any sort of agitation. He would always say, Jivana nirvahe ane udvega na dibe, para upakare nija sukha pasaribe. In the course of maintaining one's life, one must not disturb others, but rather forego one's own comforts for the benefit of others. He was truly the radiant personification of this statement. He was even extremely hesitant to ask anything of the devotee who looked after him. One should not give agitation to the Vaishnavas, he would say, revealing the inner torment it caused him to ask anything of anyone. When he was preaching and staying with different grihastas, he was always careful not to cause them any disturbance, even if he knew them very well, and always made sure the devotees traveling with him were also careful in this regard. If he happened to arrive very late at night at someone's home, he would tell them, Do not worry, we already took prasad. Even if this was not true, he would assure the grihastas he had eaten and stay hungry through the night. In general, he never said anything to anyone, even his own disciples, that would disturb them in any way. He would often say, I blow even on panta bhat, rice left soaking overnight in water, before I eat it. Not only that, if someone wanted to provoke him, he would not allow himself to be affected. He was very tolerant in this way, and this disposition of his was very well known throughout the Gaudiya Vaishnava community. 3. Satyasar, truthful. Hari Bol Rase Shri Mataji. Satyasar, truthful. Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj had taken to heart the essence of the supreme truth manifested in the current of transcendental conceptions flowing from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Sri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami. He never deviated from the practice and propagation of that truth for even a moment. No plea or opposition could make him ever waver, even slightly, from his conviction in the truth they taught. His conviction was in following the guidance of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Sri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami. In this context, he would say, Acharyara Jay Mata, She Mata Sar, Ar Jata Mata Saba, Jauka Charakar. The conclusions of the Acharyas are the essence. All other conclusions can fall to ruin. Sama, equanimous. Is that how you say that? Equanimous. I think so. In happiness or distress, in the company of friends or foes, whether receiving honor or insults from others, in all situations, Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj was endlessly calm and composed. Because of this samabuddhi, or equilibrium, his tolerance was quite natural. He could be in a place that had an utterly foul stench and not be bothered in the slightest. Sama lostrashma kanchana. Pebbles and gold are the same, he would say. In places that were horrendously noisy, he would, without difficulty, go about his writing and studies, and then easily take rest. Even in extremely insulting situations, he would remain unperturbed. Everyone is a servant of Krishna and my teacher, he would say. With this attitude, his expertise at giving honor, whether it was to a small child or to an extremely arrogant person, was genuinely astonishing. To have love for God, friendship with the pure devotees, mercy for the ignorant, and indifference for the envious is quite impossible to even conceive of for those of mundane intelligence. The genuine realization that all living beings are servants of Krishna is the basis of the Madhyam Adhikari's equal vision. But the way he would offer pranam to his disciples or those on the level of his disciples and address them as Prabhu is indicative of how a Mahabhagavat sees others. Nirdosha, faultless. In regard to this virtue, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written the following. As Vaishnavas are exalted beings, their character needs to be exalted and worthy of following. If a Vaishnava's character is poor, then how will other souls who are of weaker character learn proper behavior? Taking these matters into consideration, all those who are acharyas and who impart mantras should and will make special efforts to keep their character free from flaw. Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj was naturally of such flawless character. The filth of the 5 places where Parikshit Maharaj allowed Kali to live, gambling, intoxication, illicit sex, violence to other living entities, and gold, never dared to touch him. When he left his home at the age of 9 and spent his whole life dedicated to following the guidance of Paramahansa Gaudiya Vaishnavas, what appeal could these vices of Kali have for him? that innocence of being 9 years old, that innocence of a 9-year-old never left him his whole life. He always was completely pure in that way. He never had any other life experience. Even though he was the president of a huge institution, he never had a personal bank account. He used to say, "My bank is in the pocket of my kurta. Whatever I have for the service of Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas is all there." For the last 15 years of his manifest presence, he stopped even touching money. The devotees serving him saw to financial matters, and from time to time, he would simply instruct those devotees to provide financial support where needed for the service of Bhagavan. No one ever saw him indulge in any kind of luxury or convenience. All his life, he used simple, ordinary soap and a rather old-fashioned type of rubber shoes. As long as a garment was not ripped, actually, something about the shoes that he wears. Savitri Didi, she was saying that she noticed that he always liked to get these old kind of rubber shoes that were like black color. And she thought it was strange, like why would a sadhu wear black? But actually, she found out that when he was, oh God, I forgot what the details were. But one time he had to go out on preaching, and he was traveling all these places, and so then Param Gurudev went out and bought him these shoes himself. He went out, chose the shoes, picked them, brought them back, and gave them to Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj. And so from that time till the end of his time in this world, he only wore those shoes, like only those type of shoes. He never wore any other kind of shoes like that, because that was what was given to him. But she said something really beautiful, and I forgot what it was. Anyhow, as long as a garment was not ripped or falling apart, he could not and would not part with it. If someone gave him a new set of clothes, he would ask the devotees to pass it on to serve the Vaishnavas. Once, someone gave him a new kind of soap that was sandalwood scented, and he got rather upset. "Are you trying to get a license for your own indulgences by getting me to use this?" he said. "Use this in the service of Shishi Radha Vinod Bihari, please. They are the only ones who have the right to enjoy such nice things." Wow. That makes me feel really indulgent when he got upset about somebody giving him sandalwood scented soap. 6. Vadanya, magnanimous. What is generally referred to as magnanimity was denounced by Srila Rupa Goswami when he offered his obeisance to Sri Gaur Sundar and addressed him as Mahavadanya, greatly magnanimous. Wait. What is generally referred to as magnanimity was denounced by Srila Rupa Goswami when he offered his obeisance to Gaur Sundar and addressed him as Mahavadanya, greatly magnanimous. One who is well versed in the wondrous qualities of Sri Krishna Chaitanya's mercy becomes infused with a similar Mahavadanya quality. It was by the painstaking and heartfelt endeavors of greatly magnanimous personalities such as Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Shishimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, and Shishimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj that all corrupted forms of the soul's eternal religion were dispelled and the pristine current of the highest teachings preserved within this earthly realm. Shishimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj founded Sri Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti to safeguard this pure current of devotional conceptions, and then entrusted it to his dear friend Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj, whom he had taught and trained since childhood. Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj displayed his great magnanimity by keeping that sacred current undisturbed and undiluted. He would always say, "Shri Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti is non-different from my Guru Pad Padma, and I can never be separated from my Guru Pad Padma." He simply sought to inspire the living entities in the process of worship that was revealed by his Guru Varga, worship of Rajendra Nandan Shri Krishna as served by the gopis of Braj. He kept an extremely wide berth of all devious conceptions and strongly emphasized the maintenance of the standards set by Shishimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, which included the strict observance of Chaturmasya Vrat, Purushottam Vrat, Akadashi, Shri Krishna Janmashtami, Shri Ram Navami, and all other sacred fasting days. Moreover, he never condoned any compromise in regard to the conduct of initiated devotees, which meant strict prohibition of them engaging in the worship of demigods and goddesses and consuming tea, pan, alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, and non-vegetarian foodstuffs. One lady who had heard Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj's Harikatha for a long time and wanted to follow proper Vaishnav Sadachar, repeatedly approached him to receive Harinam and Diksha. But her husband refused to give up eating meat, and she had to cook for him. Finally, after a great many tearful requests, Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj gave her a mala that he had not chanted on, and told her, "Mother, I do not have the right to do anything independently. I am bound and obligated to my superiors. You are a mother to me. Are you going to force your son to do something he is forbidden to do?" His great magnanimity was that he safeguarded the impeccable standard of Vaishnav Dharma so carefully amid the ocean of contaminations that is Kali Yuga, and inspired his followers to do the same. Nirapeksha na hoile dharma na jaya rakshani. One cannot protect Dharma unless one is uncompromising. What is that from? That's from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Mridu, gentle. The Bhakti Lata, the vine of devotion, is very tender. It cannot survive in a hard heart. If one does not relinquish kutarka, specious reasoning, what's that mean? Specious? Sorry. Hey, how come lookup is not working? Specious means superficially plausible, but actually wrong. Okay. Misleading in appearance, especially misleadingly attractive. Okay. So if one does not relinquish kutarka, specious reasoning, and desires for sense enjoyment, the heart does not become soft. And if the heart does not soften, Bhakti Devi cannot appear there. As taste, ruchi, arises for anything related to Bhagavan, the heart softens to the point that it remains constantly melted. Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj's nature was so soft and gentle that the moment people came into his presence, they would be overwhelmed by it. Thousands and thousands of people were blessed to be able to bathe simultaneously in the nectareous ocean of affection of his gentle heart. Everyone felt like they were the special object of his affection and felt supreme satisfaction in that. In the ambience of that softness, no one could be hesitant or withdrawn. Whoever came into the proximity of his childlike tenderness would blossom and seat him on the throne of their heart. He himself would say, "I am a child, and you are all my guardians." He would also say, "We are all children in front of Bhagavan. If you cannot be simple-hearted like a child, you can't become a Vaishnava." Is cannot better? It feels like that's more. I think so. Where is? I think it's more strong. If you, it says cannot right there. Maybe that's really the reason why. Whatever. If you cannot be simple-hearted like a child, you cannot become a Vaishnava. Just as an infant has no other language besides crying, we have no other alternative than to weep while chanting Harinam before Bhagavan. If the infant does not cry, the mother doesn't give milk. Not that one should make a show of crying. It has to be the crying of the heart. And Bhagavan, who lives in the heart, knows well what that is. Can a parent remain unmoved by the crying of their child? This is now an accepted usage, right? That you have singular, can a parent, and then have their. Is that that's acceptable now in English, right? I think it's just I'll check later. 8. Suchi, clean. Gangara parasha hoile paschate pavan, darshane pavitra koro e tomar gun. One becomes pure by touching the Ganga, but your quality is that the mere sight of you is purifying. It's by Srila Narottam Das Thakur. Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj was truly the personification of such purificatory power. What to speak of seeing him, just remembering him purifies the heart. This is why it has been said in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.3.10, Tirti kurvanti tirtani swantastena gadavritaha. Because you, the devotees, carry Bhagavan Gadadhar bound within your heart, you make holy places holy. Like they even purify the holy places. Also, sometimes this verse is translated. There's two ways to translate this verse. Another way is that you turn, wherever you go, you turn that place into a holy place. By the rare darshan of such Mahabhagavats, the living entity becomes purified of the inclination for sinful activity. The tendency for sin must be dispelled for one to become inspired to perform Hari Bhajan. Then, by hearing the divine message emanating from the lips of those devotees, the living entity can advance in Hari Bhajan. Many, many fortunate persons were drawn to Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj in this way and became engaged in Hari Bhajan. In regard to cleanliness, he would say, all manner of purity, inner and outer, depends on remembering the lotus-side Sri Hari. Shri Nam Bhajan is not to be given up in any condition of purity or impurity, because it is the eternal function of the living entity. Chanting Shri Nam with conviction and serving Shri Vigraha, who is non-different from Shri Nam, is imperative for every sadhak and sadhika. But there is no need to practice the stringent and ritualistic standards of cleanliness as observed in the Smarta tradition. 9. Akinchana, possessionless. To be free of the arrogance associated with high birth, opulence, education, and physical beauty is true akinchanata, possessionlessness. Only one who is akinchana is tunarapi sunicha. That mood of being bereft of any and all possessions, and that quality of being humbler than a blade of grass was evident in every step Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj took. It doesn't mean that the person is possessionless, but it means that they're bereft of the mood of having any possessions. So they don't see any possessions that are with them as being theirs. They don't have any attachment for it. It's the same if they have nothing or if they have everything. It doesn't affect them in any way. He would often say, I'm always staying under trees. I never stay in buildings. I really have no address. My only real refuge is under trees. These were not mere words. He would spend day after day in utter delight in the rickety cottages of very pure devotees. To fulfill the desire of a pure devotee who wanted to host him, he stayed during the rainy season in that little home that had a leaky roof and spent whole nights clutching an umbrella to keep dry. He felt more comfortable staying with poor devotees in their straw cottages than with proud rich people in their multi-story mansions. And I actually saw that, like little tiny mud homes, like just really, like really rickety homes. And then they'd be, oh, and this is the room that Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj stayed in. And yeah, so I've like seen the actual cottages that he would stay in. And this is no understatement. If ever coerced, is that how you say that word? Anyways, if ever coerced to go to a rich person's house, he would always feel he was always very uncomfortable in that environment. He would say, Bhagavan has more mercy for the poor. Aristocrats, scholars, and wealthy people are very arrogant. You cannot buy Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas with wealth, opulence, and erudition. These efforts to buy me really makes me uncomfortable. Poor people naturally have a humble mood because of their lack of money, and such a mood is favorable for sadhan bhajan. If those people gain sadhu sangha, they can easily progress on the path of sadhan bhajan, much more easily than those who are rich and arrogant. Poverty is really not a curse, but an advantage in obtaining the real mercy of Guru, Vaishnavas, and Bhagavan. Such an Akinchan saint who has no enmity toward anyone and who is wholly indifferent to wealth, position, and prestige is truly rare. 10. Sarva Pakaraka, works for the benefit of all. Bharata bhumite manusya janma hoilo jar, janma sarthaka kori koro para upakar. Those who have taken a human birth in the land of India should make their lives worthwhile by engaging in the welfare of others. It is through the compassion of Sri Chaitanya Chandra, the abode of mercy, that one can offer the greatest help to any and all living entities. The resonance of the Krishna Sankirtan Yajna propagated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu simultaneously invokes supreme auspiciousness for mountains, trees, plants, animals, birds, and human beings of every kind. In order to duly and beautifully spread Sriman Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan Yajna everywhere, Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj established temples and ashrams everywhere, thus providing all living entities with the means to gain ultimate auspiciousness. Even when a dangerous creature like a snake appeared near him in the assembly where he was lecturing on Bhagavatam, he would tell the frightened audience not to harm it in any way and would have it listen to that Bhagavat Katha. On countless occasions, he delivered various ghosts and spirits by reciting Hari Katha and chanting Harinam to them in the middle of the night. He would provide Mahaprasad meals to the poor and distressed, and would even provide them financial assistance. There's some really cool ghost stories with Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj, actually. 11. Shanta, peaceful. Shamo man nishtata buddhe. Peace means absorbing one's intelligence in me. Srimad Bhagavatam 11:19-33. The jiva only becomes truly peaceful if his intelligence becomes fixed upon Krishna. Those who want material enjoyment and those who want salvation or mystic powers are not peaceful. Aside from the devotees of Krishna, no one is peaceful. Being peaceful does not just mean being disciplined and sober. It means being free from agitation, having brought one's senses under control, having no violent impulses, never being susceptible, never being susceptible to provocation, being content, etc. Aptly named Santosh, meaning satisfied, Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj displayed these virtues from a very early age and thus became dear to everyone. It was because he was devoted to Krishna from birth that he went to Navadvip, just once at the age of 9 and became fully surrendered to Krishna, never to return to the unrest of family life. People commonly say, Sangsara Dharma Bodho Dharma. Sangsara Dharma Bodho Dharma. The Dharma of family life is the greatest Dharma. Or they say, Age Bhog, Pore Tyag. First enjoyment, then renunciation. These popular sayings encourage entanglement in family life and cast people into oceans of misery via marriage. Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj never gave any such instruction to the jivas. He would say, though the propensity for enjoyment does subside temporarily through enjoying, it never truly subsides or becomes satiated. Only through sadhu sangha, which causes the jiva's consciousness to bloom and enables him to gain knowledge of his true nature and function, do the jiva's material desires become soothed. Only through sadhu sangha, which causes the jiva's consciousness to blossom and enables him to gain knowledge of his true nature and function, do the jiva's material desires become soothed. That gives him peace, and then, by serving Krishna, he gains parashanti, supreme peace. 12. Krishnakashan, surrendered exclusively to Krishna. Like the central point from which it is possible to draw a circle's circumference, this quality becomes the central pivot around which the whole sphere of all the glorious qualities of a Vaiṣṇava exist. Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj would frequently recite verses like Karma Vilambaka Kechit Jnana Vilambaka Vayam tu Haridasanam Padatrana Vilambakaha. Some resort to fruitive action, and others to impersonal knowledge. But I simply take shelter of the shoes of the servants of Hari, which ferry souls across the ocean of material existence. Other times he would say, Sahayo me matram vitakta dalani Vaiṣṇava kripa. The mercy of the Vaishnavas, which destroys the illusion of Maya, is my only aid. He would always say, my every activity occurs strictly according to the orders of my masters. I am bound to them. I have no way to do anything independently. At night, when it was time to take rest, he would often be seen conversing with some invisible presence. When asked repeatedly who it was, he would relent and quietly say, my masters came. In answer to the question of who his masters were, he would point at the pictures of the Guru Varga. He would often be heard murmuring from the following kirtan, Vrishabhanu Sutta Charana Sevani Hoivo Je Palya Dasi Radha Paksha Chari Je Jana Se Jan Je Bhave Se Bhave Thake Amito Radhika Pakshapati Sada Kavu nahi heri thake. When will I become a maidservant of Vrishabhanu's daughter? Let everyone aside from Sri Radha's party be as they are. I am always partial to Sri Radha and never look upon those who are not. Whenever there was a disturbance in the service at one of the mats, it was always Thakurani Shrimati Radhika who would report it to him, not Thakur, Krishna. Accordingly, he would then take steps to remedy the situation. He always referred to Shrimati Radhika in this manner, as Thakurani. He would rarely ever speak her name aloud. In this way, he expressed his exclusive surrender to Krishna via Shrimati Radhika, which is the topmost zenith that this quality can reach. Wow, that's amazing. Akama. desireless. Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj never sought anything from anyone in this world. He used to say, "My Gurudev told me, you will not have to worry about Bhagavan. The moment you think of something you need in order to render some service, the arrangement will be made." In reality, Sri Gurudev alone is the main custodian of all service rendered to Shishi Gaura Radha Vinod Bihari. He is the one who makes all the arrangements. We simply collect the ingredients of service as per his arrangement. What to speak of this world? There is nothing we seek from anyone in the entire universe. Instead of seeking to receive anything from anyone, he would endlessly glorify Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga without any trace of ulterior motive. He would gesture toward the pictures of his Guru Varga and say, "They see to all our maintenance and nourishment. All this time, they have been seeing to our real welfare. They are doing so right now as well, and they will certainly continue to do so in the future." Niriha, effortless, indifferent. All the endeavors of one who is Jivan Mukta, liberated while living in this world, are strictly for the sake of Krishna's pleasure. As neither indulgence nor renunciation is part of the living entity's eternal dharma, Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj was never seen to engage in any sort of pursuit. He was never seen to engage in either sort of pursuit. He wasn't engaged in indulgence or renunciation. He displayed this sort of indifference in his life, thereby expressing the pinnacle of Sharanagati. Nija bala cheshta prati bharasa chariya tomara ichaya yachi nirbhara koriya. Giving up faith in my own strength and efforts, I am here at your will, relying upon you. In one sense, he was constantly striving, engaging his body, mind, and words in the service of Sri Hari. On the other hand, he was utterly inactive when it came to accumulating his he was utterly inactive when it came to his accumulating profit, worship, and prestige. 15. Sthir, steady. One second, I'm just seeing. Coerced. Hari Bol Bhakti Yoga, and Prajumna Prabhu. Hari Bol. Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj would sit for hours. He would sit for hours on end in the midst of an assembly or on his bed, immersed in his activities. Didn't make a difference whether he was in an assembly or on his bed. He was immersed in it. It seems like an impossible task to us, who are of rather restless natures. This is truly an indication of the steadiness imbued throughout his body, mind, and words. Once a devotee said to him, "I have been looking for you for so many days. You never stay in one place." In response, he said, "What is sthir? One who is always engaged in the service of Shishi Guru Gauranga is sthir. Everyone else is not sthir." Once a devotee living in the Mat in Navadip expressed the desire to live in one of the mats in Vraj Mandal. Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj said to him, "For one who has not realized the glory of Gaura Mandal, Vrajamandal is just a place with trees, roads, houses, ponds, and fields." That is why our Guru Varga has sung, "Gurudev boro kripa kori Gauravana maje Godrumeti achostan." Oops, sorry. Chitta stira have sakala sahibo ekante bhajivo hari. O Gurudev, bestowing great mercy on me, you have given me a place in Gaura's forest, and you ordered me to sit in this Vraj and chant Harinam. Wait a second. That's not there. But when will you have mercy on the servant and give me the qualification to do so? Then my mind, my chitta will be steady. I will tolerate everything and perform bhajan of Hari with exclusive focus. But wait, that's not there. I'm gonna talk because he took out some of the middle part of the verses. So wait 1 second. There. Because really a translation of what the text here should be, O Gurudev, bestowing great mercy on me, you have given me a place in Gaura's forest, and thus my mind may remain steady. I'll be able to tolerate everything and perform bhajan of Hari with exclusive focus. It should be something more like that. Anyways. Shri Guru Padma is the foremost Vrajavasi. The place he instructs us to do bhajan is in the place he instructs us to do bhajan in is indeed Vraj. One who sees the forest of Gora and Vraj as non-different is a real Vrajavasi. He alone is steered because his soul is offered to the instruction of Guru Padma. That is how one attains the qualification to perform one-pointed bhajan. 16. Vegeta Victorious, victorious over the 6 enemies. One who has conquered lust, anger, greed, illusion, pride, and envy is referred to as Vegeta Victorious. It was as if the word Indriya Tarpan, sense enjoyment, was not in Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj's dictionary. These six foes of the soul had no sway over him. All of his senses were fully dovetailed with the senses of Shishi Guru Gauranga, so he was quite naturally Vijita Shadaguna. Mita Bhuk, moderate in diet. From birth, Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj never partook of any non-vegetarian foodstuffs. He would say, I really am a Vigashasi Bhritya, a servant who grew up eating the remnants of the Vaiṣṇavas, my masters. And we, like the literal definition of this is one who subsists, ashi, I think, on the vigasha, the portion that's left over from the servants. So whatever is left over after the servants are finished eating, those remnants of theirs is one who only lives off of those. The remnants left over by the servants is a Vigashasi. He never, even by mistake, ate anything that was not offered. Hence, the flaw of atyahar, consuming too much, could never attack him. By his ideal example, he taught never to judge the taste of prasad while honoring it. If asked how the cooking was, he would always respond, I have rendered service to prasad. Sometimes he would say, I do not know good or bad, I just render service. There was no question of him eating too much. Daily he ate an amount proportionate to a few small children-sized bowls. Apramata, unagitated. He was firmly established in the Rupanuga words, Asakti Rohita, Sambandha Sahita, Vishaya Samuha, Sakali Madhava. Should be Sakali Madhava, not Shakalali. Right? I'll look that up. Anyways, if one is devoid of material attachment and endowed with divine knowledge of one's relationship with Krishna, then one knows that all objects of the senses belong only to Madhav. Hence, he never fell prey to a maddening preoccupation with sense objects. As his full attachment was focused on the source of everything, no attraction to or repulsion in regard to material enjoyment could affect him. 19. Amani, without any desire for honor, and 20. Manada, respectful of others. Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj was, from head to toe, the personification of Amani Manada. Even though he had the rare fortune of being in the proximity of Prabhupada, Sri Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and the fortune of serving him personally and receiving Harinam from him, he never even attempted to take pride in that great fortune or count himself as one of Prabhupada's disciples. He would always say, "My Gurudev is Jagat Guru Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, and his Gurudev is Jagat Guru Sri Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada." And he was with Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada for, what was it, 6 years, was it? He joined the Math in 1931. Oh, so it was 5 years. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati entered Nitya Leela in 1937. Oh yeah, so it was, I don't know, it might have been 6 years, 5 or 6 years. And then he got Harinam, but he never considered himself one of Prabhupada's disciples. One day, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj privately addressed him as Guru Bhai, God brother. And Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj burst into tears, objecting with the words, "Prabhupada is yours, and you are mine." Once a disciple asked him, "Can we refer to both Srila Keshav Goswami Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada as Param Gurudev?" In response to this, he said, "You want to say this because of my one little interaction, receiving Harinam from Srila Prabhupada." The kerning could be better there. Sorry. So you want to say this because of my one little interaction receiving Harinam from Srila Prabhupada and earn some pratishta in that way? However, I do not maintain the ego, the abhiman, that Srila Prabhupada is my Gurudev. So he cannot be your Param Gurudev. Only Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj is your Param Gurudev. Even though he received Harinam from Srila Prabhupada and Diksha mantras from Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj before Srila Keshav Goswami Maharaj took sannyas, even though he was a direct witness to the founding of the Sri Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti, even though he was chosen as the president and acharya by Srila Keshav Goswami Maharaj, and even though he was a peerless scholar of all the scriptures, a living, breathing something of Siddhanta. I don't know what that would be. A living, breathing embodiment of Siddhanta. I have to ask Srivas about this. Even though he was entirely beyond compare in every way, he never made any efforts to be treated differently or earn prestige by making it known that he was somehow superior. He considered himself to be a negligible servant of the Samiti. His natural humility was such that the day before his appearance day, to avoid the ceremony of Guru Puja, he would suddenly disappear and go where no one could find him. He gave honor to all as befitting their status, and always taught his disciples to give honor to their seniors, thus manifesting the practice of Manada Dharma, giving respect to others. His expertise in giving proper honor to people in both worldly and spiritual settings was truly exemplary. If someone wanted any sort of respect or prestige, he seemed to be omniscient of their desire and never hesitated to fulfill it. And even when he was very vocal about what was unfavorable to bhakti or the sampradaya, his statements or conduct never transgressed his naturally respectful nature. Gambhir, grave. Though Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj had a natural childlike gentleness, at the same time, his gravity was unsurpassable. He followed closely every word of his Sri Guru Varga, and thus, being fully versed in Shabda Brahma and Para Brahma, retained an ocean-like aura of gravitas at every step. Just as it is difficult to deduce from the surface of the ocean that it is a treasure chest of gems, similarly, it was difficult to detect from outside the glow of the radiant blue sapphire, the Ujjvala Nilamani, situated in the depth of his heart. In front of that vast gravity, all manner of frivolous talk would bow away, and the witch of the desire for prestige would vanish in fear. Karuna, compassionate. As the personified mercy of Krishna, Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj's butter-like heart was always melting with the quality of compassion. There is no counting how many hundreds of impoverished individuals he lent his full assistance to. Seeing their inclination to perform Hari Bhajan, he supported them with money, goods, wise instructions, and helped them develop or increase the fortitude of mind necessary to perform bhajan, thus not allowing them to stray from or be deprived of this exalted path. Literally, thousands of people, amid the most precarious situations of their lives, had more faith and confidence in him than in their own family members. Knowing he was theirs, they could be peaceful and worry-free. Either he would be there for them in person, or he would send someone trustworthy to help them. Otherwise, if he was very busy, he would confer valuable instructions via letters, hundreds of letters, which stand testament to his painstaking efforts to extend himself or to help them. To this day, the thought of his magnanimity draws forth tears from the eyes of those persons. I mean, you can see it in these letters, how even just some poor person in the middle of nowhere, just, a simple housewife in the remotest village in Bengal, he would spend so much time writing such long letters and full of so much empathy. And so, I mentioned this in a Gaudiya Kirtan posting, how to a person like that, he would write, like we've been reading every day, sometimes the longest, most beautiful letter that could be published in a magazine. But he'd just write that for one individual, just some not big person, just some nobody. That was, and the letters in these books, it's not like these are all the letters he wrote. These are just some letters that people would bring, to get published. But I'm sure there's hundreds and hundreds of letters that people just kept with them and didn't give for this publication. Another special feature of his compassion was that he would not readily give any instruction to anyone, even to his disciples. First, he would observe and evaluate their capacity, their mindset, and inclination to fulfill his instruction. His reasoning was, if a jiva disobeys my direct order because he is in a conditioned state and compelled by the stubborn habits of misusing his independence since time immemorial, then because he will have committed the offense of disobeying one's guru, he will sink further to a lowly condition of existence. Once again, bereft of shelter, he would have to wander through countless species of life. Since he does not know how to obtain the shelter of a bona fide guru, how many more lifetimes will he have to wait? Rather than benefiting him, I will have caused him unimaginable suffering. Just because he does not understand the risk of neglecting a direct order does not mean I can be frivolous in this regard. Therefore, he would, with utmost respect, say, if I say something, will you kindly listen? Or, if you do this service, Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas will be pleased with you. Thus, he would give instructions in a very polite and indirect manner. (23) Maitri, friendly. Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj had profoundly deep friendships with Vaishnavas. There is no calculating the amount of assistance, both financial and otherwise, he discreetly offered to Srila Prabhupada's renounced disciples. Those who had even a glimpse of his friendship with Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Jivan Janardhan Goswami Maharaj can perhaps comprehend what friendship looks like between two Mahabhagavats. If he saw someone sincerely engaged in the service of Bhagavan, then no matter who that person was, there was no end to his affection for him. His door would be wide open for that person. Kavi, a poet. Poets and poetry, oh God, I don't know how to say this word. Offician, oh God, I'm not even going to try. I don't know how to read. Is this called IPA? I don't know how to read IPA, but I'll just try anyways. Aficionado. 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 Yeah, I think that's it. Aficionado. Okay. Poets and poetry aficionados were referred to by the word kavi, but it can also refer to a scholar. Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj knew hundreds of poems of native and foreign poets by heart. He had learned these during his time in school in Mayapur. While others may have read the same poems and fallen prey to the allure of Maya expressed in them, he, even as a young student, derived inspiration from them that was favorable to bhakti. He would explain very beautifully which poet he felt had some semblance of devotion to Bhagavan, or which poem expressed teachings favorable to the cultivation of bhakti. We came across quite a few of them, didn't we, in here? What were some of the poets? One was Michael Madhusudan Bose. Then there was, oh God, I forgot the names of some of these people that he's quoting. But yeah, I had to look them up, though, to find out about them, to find the reference. As far as transcendental poetry is concerned, there's no fathoming how much of that he kept stored in his heart. The way divine poetry would issue forth from his lips in an unbroken flow like the current of the Ganga, one could only assume he was a messenger from that supermundane realm. That is why Sri Vinod, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, referred to him as Jivanta Gaudiya Abhidhan, the living encyclopedia of the Gaudiya Siddhanta. This treasure house of his was no burdensome accumulation bereft of Krishna Bhakti or a means to gain profit, worship, or an adoration. He was truly a kavi in the sense that his consciousness was fully absorbed in relishing the ras of that divine poetry. There is one small poem he has written that gives us a glimpse of the expansive nature of his transcendental love. I don't actually understand this poem, but we'll just sing it anyhow. Keho chaya shudu pitagora, keho chaya shama nil. Some only want yellow cloth. Some only want yellow gold. Some want dark blue. Ami chahi shudu rama dhanu ranga, jahate shakali mila. I just want the colors of Rama's bow, the rainbow, wherein all meet. Keho bhalobashe swarna champa, keho bhalobashe shudu jui. Some love golden champak, some just love jasmine. Sajana bhagane sneham mamatai, kake reke kake chui. They are arranged in the garden via love and attachment. Who do I keep? Who do I pick? Balo bashi sabe apana bhabiya bandhiya pritira rakhi. I love all, feeling them to be my own, binding them with the amulet of love. Keho nare pora paya samadara guna sorabhe sabadhaki. No one is other. They all receive the same honor as I douse them in the perfume of virtue. Keho. "25. Expert. It is very difficult for conditioned souls to remember Krishna by themselves. This is why Krishna has mercifully manifested the Vedas, Puranas, and other scriptures, wherein various rules and regulations for different people of different capacities reveal the gradual path to remembering Krishna at all times. All these rules and regulations are, at first glance, perceived by the conditioned soul to be very difficult to follow. Srimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj, through his own conduct, very expertly revealed to the living entities how to apply these instructions of Scripture in their lives, whereby they can gain the mental fortitude to move forward in sadhana bhajan in a pure and proper way. He always said, "All the instructions of the Scriptures are not for anyone but me." Once a devotee asked, "Gurudev, then are they not for us?" He laughed and replied, If you become mine, then they are also for you." I like that. In other words, I follow all the instructions of. In other words, he was implying that I follow all the instructions of the Scriptures because they were prescribed just for me. Since they are not for anyone else, I do not bother to see who is following them and who is not. If you inherit this conception of mine, then you too will be benefited from these instructions. There is no limits to the expertise he displayed in proving, through comparative analysis, the inferiority of the craving for material enjoyment or impersonal liberation, and thereby establishing Krishna Bhakti as the Dharma of the soul. Whether there was only one person present to listen, or 10 or thousands, astonishingly, he always invested 100% of his effort into communicating these truths. No matter how many people came to see him per day, how many religious assemblies he was invited to, or how many homes he was requested to deliver Harikatha in, he was always fully eager and ready to fulfill said demands, and paid no attention to any bodily inconvenience incurred in the course of doing so. Those who heard his sublime nectarious Harikatha, which was full of profound realizations of Scripture and relieved its listeners of doubt, had no taste in any other katha. This special expertise of his distinguished him. His writings are the same, profound, sublime, and beautifully articulate. Thus, it was with great expertise that he published many sacred texts written by the Goswamis in order to preserve and protect the Sampradaya. This is the last one. Moni, silent. In the age of Kali, an age of conflict, to be silent in the midst of conversations that are not related to Krishna is the only intelligent thing to do. This was one of Srimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj's special instructions. He would often say, "The last instruction my Gurudev gave me was Dekhbi, Shunbi, Bolibi na." See, hear, but do not speak. You have eyes, so you will see. You have ears, so you will hear. And you have a mouth, but do not speak. I think it's better to say do not. It's 2 words. This instruction was something he personally followed very strictly. If he saw someone knowingly doing something wrong, he would see such behavior as irredeemable. Not irredeemable. Irremediable. Sorry, I know that's like a really basic word. Anyways, you know what the word is. Irremediable, and remain silent. At times, his silence would be for the sake of chastisement. He would say, "A dumb mute has no enemies." Thus he would remain untouched by unwanted association and conflict, and stay immersed in Krishna Kirtan, the one sublime feature of Kali Yuga. In this way, he instructed his followers to do the same. But when he saw that, in this age, even a dumb mute has enemies, he commenced his pastimes of illness and became fully silent. He would recognize everyone and smile, but would not say anything besides Hare Krishna. Like Srimad Mahaprabhu and his final pastimes, Srimad Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj began to spend most of his time absorbed in an internal realm of service. Sometimes he'd be observed calling out to his Thakurani. Sometimes he would be tossing and turning on his bed, uttering the following couplet: Krishna re, Bapare, Kota mor hari, Kona dike gela mora prana kori churi. O Krishna, alas, where is my Hari? Which way did you go, having stolen? Which way did you go, having stolen my heart? Sometimes he would be wide awake in the middle of the night, clutching Srimad Bhagavatam to his chest, gazing at it. He displayed extreme indifference to anything that was not related to Krishna. Sometimes, unknowingly, he would reveal a hint of his internal service, but then the next moment, he would come to external consciousness and try to conceal it. Though he was always trying to keep his Swarup hidden, his inner mood of a Vrajagopi revealed itself in various emotions and expressions. Entering Nitya-lila. Many times he said, I will leave this world on the bank of the Ganga in Bhagavan's Dham in the midst of loud Sankirtan in all four directions. And so it came to be. In late 2004, he was being looked after at Sri Nimai Tirtha Gaudiya Math in Baidyabati near Kolkata. As if he could sense his departure to the eternal abode was imminent, he suddenly returned to Sri Navadip Dham on the Akadashi just prior to the start of Damodar Vrat. Many devotees came from all over to gather at Sri Devananda Gaudiya Math in Navadip to observe Kartik Vrat in his proximity. From time to time, he made public appearances, fulfilling the devotees' desires for his darshan. But from the day of Sri Anakut Mahotsav, the illusory forces of Maya began to cover their eyes, as the health of his sacred form, his Sri Anga, appeared to deteriorate. The next day, 14/11/04, seeing his health deteriorating further, his sevaks considered shifting him to Kolkata immediately, but he would not allow himself to be moved. He did not want to leave the bank of the Ganga to set one foot outside of Navadip, which is none different from Govardhan. The devotees began to do kirtan all throughout the math. As the night progressed, the apprehension about his departure increased, and just after midnight, at around 12:37 a.m. on the third day of the bright lunar fortnight, Shukla Tritiya Tithi, during Amrita Yoga, a very auspicious time, just as his sevaks applied tilak to his limbs, he disappeared from our midst. As he had always been the intimate companion, servant, and right-hand man of his Gurudev, Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, he was given a resting place to the right-hand side of his beloved Gurudev's Samadhi. Both the appearance and disappearance of Bhagavan's associates are for the welfare of the world. They know that as long as they are directly manifest before us, we remain trapped in external vision of them, content with having seen their external appearance, often not even attempting to appreciate who they really are. Hence, they have just cause to conceal themselves from the world and from us for our benefit. On one hand, they teach us renunciation by showing us the transience of human life. However, if we have some love for them, we will know them to be an eternal truth, the Ashray Vigraha, and will strive eagerly on the path of sadhan bhajan, following the principles of real renunciation, yukta vairagya, in order to one day meet with them again. All glories to the supremely worshipful Ashray Vigraha, Nitya-lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj. All glories to the Vishay Vigraha, Shri Shri Gaura Nityananda, Shri Shri Gaura Gadadhar, Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihariju. That's it. The end. Wasn't that such an amazing glorification of Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj? Anyways, I think it's like too good. All right. So thank you so much for all of you joining me in all these readings, getting through this whole book. It made it a lot easier to proofread this book when I'm reading it out loud to all of you. So yeah, I'm really grateful for this help that you gave me. And yeah, this book, now that it's been proofread, that I'm finished, and I told Srivas and other people proofreading, I said, whatever you've done, if you haven't finished, doesn't matter, just send it to me, and we're going to just enter in your corrections. And so it's going to be going to press pretty soon. Yeah. So it'll be, once it's available, I'll let you all know. I'm hoping that because there's going to be a shipment to America in 3 weeks from now. And so I'm hoping that we can have all the books printed before then and then ship books to America so that everybody in America will be able to, or even in other countries, because there's bhaktistore.com and we ship it internationally from there also. Yeah, then it will be available for purchase if you want the physical book. But I can't send the PDF file of the proofreading version of it because we don't want to put out to anybody. We don't want it to get out the version with mistakes in it. And so we'll have to wait till I collect everybody's corrections and then enter them all on the PDF. And then we have to enter in all those corrections in the master PDF into the InDesign file. And then once it's fully complete and we've sent it to the printers, then the PDF will be available. And I'm not sure if we're actually going to release the PDF right away, because if a book comes out and immediately when the book comes out, people get the PDF for it, and then they read the book, then a lot less people will want to buy the book. And so, I mean, with every GVP book, we have it available online for free, PDF. It's not like we're looking to make a profit, but it really does help with the book sales if we release the PDF a little bit later after the book's printed. When people are most excited about the book, then if the PDF isn't available, then more people will want to buy it. Yeah. Yes, exactly, Manjari. Yes, will there be a pre-order process? No, there is not going to be a pre-order process. That would be a good idea, but I don't think we have that kind of system set up. That would generate a lot more excitement and get a lot more sales though, for sure. Yeah. Anyhow, we'll see with that. We're actually not printing that many copies of this book. I thought we should print more, but we're only printing 500 copies. So that makes the book a bit more expensive but the thing is, we don't really have room to store so many books, and these are thick books. And I don't think people realize I don't think some of the people who are in charge of this area are aware of how excited people are for this book. So anyhow, we'll see what happens. Jai Shri Radhe, everybody. Okay, they did that for Shamarani Mataji's book. One other thing, though, is there is a chance that there's a problem with the printers and they just need to ship the books. Because right now, Vasanti Didi is waiting for books for distribution. Like, she's out of books right now, and so we need to make a big shipment. And I'm not sure if she's going to want to, if there's a problem with the printers, it gets delayed. I'm not sure if she's going to want her book distribution program to be on hold for this book. And so there is a chance that it might not make it for the shipment. But I think it is going to make it for the shipment. We're trying to get it to the printers ASAP. And yeah, we'll see what happens, though. It's really all in the hands of the Lord. All right. Dandavat pranams, everybody. Oh, and tomorrow we will resume after a long break. We're going to finally resume our Srimad Bhagavatam readings. And starting from tomorrow, I'm going to be starting at 7:30 instead of 7 o'clock in the morning, so half an hour later. All right, so really excited to start Srimad Bhagavatam again. And hopefully we can get through the whole thing without any more interruptions. Root Manjari Didi, I will save a copy for you. Totally, of course. Obviously. You don't need to worry in the least. All right, Hari Bol, everybody. See you all tomorrow.